Seneca's wisdom for a chaotic world. Have you ever looked around at the relentless churn of the modern world, the constant notifications, the political noise, the sheer, exhausting volume of information, and felt a deep, persistent sense of being adrift? It's a feeling shared by millions, and surprisingly, it was a feeling well understood nearly 2 millennia ago by a Roman philosopher, statesman, and playwright named Lucius Annaeus Seneca. When we dust off his letters and essays, what we find isn't just dry history, but a remarkably powerful and incredibly relevant toolkit for navigating the very specific chaos of our 21st century lives. The core of Seneca's philosophy, often categorized as Stoicism, isn't about being emotionless, a common misconception. It's about being undisturbed. It's about building an internal fortress so strong that the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or, today, a volatile stock market or a brutal social media comment, simply can't touch your essential peace. Let's dig into some of his less discussed but most potent principles. The true tyranny of indecision, and why busyness is a lie. Seneca often wrote about the difference between being occupied and being busy. In his famous essay on the shortness of life, he argues that many people aren't truly living short lives, they are simply wasting a vast majority of the time they have. But his most cutting insight here is on the tyranny of the unfocused mind. He would see our modern world of endless choice and indecision, the paralysis of picking a streaming show, the constant bouncing between tasks, as a profound form of self-sabotage. He believed that a life lived in constant reaction to external stimuli, emails, meetings, other people's emergencies, is a life that is never truly yours. It's the life of a slave, perpetually running errands for a cruel master, which is, in this case, our own undisciplined attention. The way out? Radical focus on the present moment and the single most important task at hand. For Seneca, true freedom is the ability to choose your focus and guard it fiercely. He teaches us that time isn't lost when we rest or reflect. It's lost when we are frantically doing things that ultimately don't matter, simply to feel busy. The invisible chains of opinion. We live in an age where our self-worth is often tied directly to the opinion of a digital crowd. Seneca, with uncanny foresight, addresses this psychological trap head-on. He urges us to stop living for the applause of others. His point isn't just that seeking approval is fruitless, but that it's profoundly weakening. When you base your happiness and decisions on external validation, you hand over control of your inner state to capricious and unpredictable forces. The public mood, a critic's harsh word, a colleague's jealousy. Seneca suggests a simple yet revolutionary shift. The only audience you should ever truly fear disappointing is yourself. He encourages us to develop a private tribunal within our own minds, where we judge our actions based on our own highest moral standards, not based on what the noisy world thinks. This internal accountability is the key to unshakable self-possession in a hyper-judgmental society. Practicing misfortune, the mental rehearsal of calamity. This is arguably one of Seneca's most radical and counterintuitive pieces of advice, and it's perfect for anxiety in our volatile world. He advises the proactive, occasional rehearsal of misfortune. No, he wasn't suggesting wallowing in pessimism. Instead, he recommended that we periodically and deliberately sit down to contemplate. What is the worst that could happen? Not as a way to invite disaster, but as a way to neutralize its psychological terror. By mentally stripping away our comforts, our job, our savings, our health, we realize two essential truths. 1. Most of the things we fear are survivable. 2. Our core self, the part that thinks, reasons, and chooses how to respond, remains intact regardless of external circumstances. This practice is the ultimate anxiety killer. When we actually face a setback, we can say, yes, I have rehearsed this scenario. I have the mental muscle memory to deal with it. It prevents the mind from catastrophizing in the moment because the catastrophe has already been mentally mapped and navigated. The antidote to restlessness, the art of solitude. In an era of relentless connectivity, Seneca's championing of deliberate solitude is a necessary corrective. For him, the constant need for company, stimulation, or distraction wasn't a sign of sociability, but a symptom of a mind that is deeply uncomfortable being alone with itself. Solitude for Seneca is not the absence of others, but the presence of self. It's the only time we can truly audit our own thoughts, check our moral compass, and tend to our internal landscape. He warns that when we avoid solitude, we never give our mind the chance to settle, to process, and to digest the relentless sensory input of the world. Our modern fear of missing out, FOMO, is precisely the restless, undisciplined mind Seneca cautions against. He teaches us that true connection to the world flows out of a settled, self-aware inner life, not the other way around. In the end, Seneca's wisdom is not a philosophy of denial, but a philosophy of radical acceptance and internal ownership. He gives us permission to stop fighting the things we cannot change, other people's opinions, world events, the past, and start obsessively cultivating the only thing we truly own, our judgment and our response. He challenges us to move from being a passenger tossed about on the chaotic sea of life to being the firm, capable captain of our own soul. If this deep dive into ancient wisdom gave you a moment of stillness in your chaotic day, think about the power of sharing that insight with others. Hit that like button to send this wisdom sailing into more feeds. What is the one thing you're going to try to let go of this week to gain more peace? Tell us in the comments. And to continue building your own internal fortress against the chaos, make sure you subscribe.